Thank you. My name is Nicholas, compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the grey sheet. I write them down and turn them over to my sponsor. I don't eat between meals, no matter what, and abstinence is the #1 priority in my life. And apologize for the sound of my voice. I've got quite a heavy cold and cough. But I was quite looking forward to this share because I wanted to share my latest grey sheet story. And it happened that a week ago, I was on a plane flying from Armenia to Germany. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, which is in that sort of period when GreySheeters don't eat at all. After midnight and before 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm with an old chum of mine. In fact, the guy that I walked to Rome with 11 years ago. We walked from Calais to Rome. And although he's not on the grey sheet, he was aware of my being on the grey sheet. So on this plane, and I start to feel unwell. I had actually been a bit unwell a few days before, but I'm feeling unwell on the plane and nauseous, and then I start to feel faint, that I'm going to faint. So I pressed the call button and the stewardess turned up, asked me what the problem was, so I explained to her. The next thing, she appeared with a glass of fruit juice, albeit an abstinent fruit juice and one not made from concentrate, that under the normal circumstances in an emergency I might have consumed. But here she was, 1 o'clock in the morning, she wanting me to drink this. And it's a real dilemma, you know. I mean, what do I do? She's not a healthcare professional, but it's 1 o'clock in the morning and it's not on my food plan for the day. And I had that sort of moment. I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be a good story to tell at my next grey sheet share, you know, because this may happen to you one day. You know? So I said, and then by this time there were quite a lot of people in the cabin who were interested in what was going on, you know. I said, well, I can't drink that. And so the next thing is she had me lying down in the corridor of the aeroplane with my feet up. And again, with all these people sort of looking on. And you know, we kind of agreed that it was one of those no matter what situations, that we don't eat no matter what. And I wasn't exactly terminal, I wasn't going to die. But it was the first time I'd come across that particular problem in 21 years on the grey sheet. And I am extremely grateful for my grey sheet abstinence, which my abstinent date is the 10th of December, 1999. I just made it into the previous millennium. And I have found the grey sheet a complete solution to my compulsive eating problem. I do not engage in compulsive eating these days, and I have had a fair bit of progressive victory over gluttony as well. And I have found that being abstinent on the grey sheet is very helpful in my other areas of abstinence from addictions and compulsions. It's almost, you might say, I believe it to be the case that food abstinence is the foundation. It's the ground floor, and if I've got that properly in place, then dealing with other addictions and compulsions becomes much easier, if not just simply possible. So you know, I was clearly an overeater from a young age. And my earliest memory is of overeating. and seeing my mother smiling at me because she was obviously very pleased that I was eating all the stuff that she was making for me. I was on my first diet at the age of 11. I was fighting the flab all the way through sort of 12, 13, 14, 15. And then my father died and I went into my exercise bulimic phase. I was doing a lot of exercise. So I was still compulsively overeating, but exercising heavily, and that kept the weight off more or less until I was commissioned in the army. And then once I no longer needed to exercise compulsorily, the compulsive eating continued, and I started to gain weight. And then that led me on to years of various kinds of diets. And the pattern was always the same. I would lose weight, I would get down to something sort of reasonable, and then I'd go back to normal living, and the weight would pile back on again. And I didn't realize at the time that what I really needed was a way of eating which could be pursued day in, day out, year in, year out, which is what GreySheet does. I came into recovery in 1990 in another fellowship, and I noticed after I'd been in recovery for about a year that I was using baked goods rather like I used to smoke. I was chain grazing, and I heard about fellowship, another food fellowship, which you will know about, and I joined that fellowship. I went to my first meeting in America. It was an all men's meeting, and I was told about a plan of eating that involved 3 moderate meals a day with nothing in between, no sugar and no white flour. And I did that quite successfully for 5 years. And it worked well for me until I started losing weight. And that was an alarming experience. I just found myself losing weight, even though I was eating these 3 moderate meals a day. And under the advice of a dietitian, I started to eat more than moderate meals, 3 more than moderate meals a day, 3 groaning great meals a day. And it still wasn't nourishing me. There was something going on. I realized today that my spirit had decided to die, and that's what was happening. It was at that point that I met somebody who was weighing and measuring their food, and I remember being a bit horrified, actually. But I called them up the following day, and to my surprise, what came out of my mouth was, "Will you sponsor me on the GreySheet?" And so I came onto this program by mistake, and have been and did 4 years back-to-back abstinence on the GreySheet, and then my sponsor came off the GreySheet, and that precipitated a bit of a problem for me because I didn't know at that point anyone else in the program, any other males in the program who were available to sponsor. So I also came off GreySheet for about 6 months. And I'm actually, in retrospect, I'm glad I did, because up until that point, I think I really thought I'd come onto GreySheet by mistake, and I needed that 6 months just to make clear to me that no, the GreySheet was something that was really absolutely essential for my sanity and sobriety and my a good life. So I managed to get back onto the GreySheet. It wasn't easy, and I know that I wouldn't try that experiment again. But I am grateful that I had that short break, because it taught me the lesson that I really needed to get, that I am a compulsive eater. I'm always going to be a compulsive eater. I'm going to die a compulsive eater. So, I've been a bit poorly, and I had to talk to my sponsor about it, because part of my symptoms was that I was feeling very queasy and not like eating at all. And there's nothing violent or abusive about this. And I was told just to do the best I could, to keep on declaring my food and eat what I could. And so I have done that. I'm now, well and truly back on the 3 meals a day. I've had 2 delicious abstinent meals so far today, and I'm looking forward to the third. I've been in bed most of the day with this cough and cold, but I get a sense I'm on the mend, and that healthy eating is very strengthening for my constitution. Keeps me on the straight and narrow, and on the path from sickness to wellness. I've had many exciting adventures with GreySheet. I mentioned that I walked to Rome on the GreySheet. That was 70 days carrying my food on my back over the Alps and into Italy, and it was fine. It was a great experience. I find that GreySheet gives me a kind of a natural fitness. Although perhaps today is not a very good day to be reporting that. I'm generally pretty healthy and pretty fit for my age. My home group is it's an all men's GreySheet meeting. We meet on a Saturday morning. I was at that meeting today, and I find it, it's a we program. I can't do this alone. I need the support of others, and I'm very, very grateful for all of you and for all the members of my home group as well. I can sometimes think that I'm a bit weird because I do this weighing and measuring. So it's why it's so important to be with other people who are doing the same thing. And quite a lot of the conventions that I go to nowadays, GreySheet is one of the eating options at these conventions. So the word is getting around. And and I mean, I find that actually a very good way of carrying the message. Just weigh and measure my food in front of other people in recovery, and lo and behold, they want to know what's going on, and before you know what, they're on the GreySheet too. So it's a great way of carrying the message. My time is up really, so I'm going to leave it down. I have been in bed all day today. If I drop off this call, please forgive me. I will stay on for as long as I can, but if I'm not feeling up to it, I shall just sort of leave you to it. And thanks very much. I'll leave it there.